Thank you. Good evening. There we go. Hello, everyone. My name is Marcus Cranting, and I am the chair of the Black and Pan-African ERG here, as well as the marketing and program coordinator for the Lead Scholars Program here at Santa Clara University. And welcome to Resilience and Revolution, a Night with Elaine Brown. So the structure of this conversation tonight is really just a conversation, hearing Elaine's story, drawing inspiration from her activism work with the Black Panther Party and throughout the Bay Area today. So it is co-moderated by Associate Professor in the Law School, Margaret Russell, and Junior Haidia Weisinger. So a little bit about our panelists. So Professor Margaret M. Russell is on the faculty of the School of Law. Her area of expertise includes constitutional law, gender and law, civil rights, civil liberties, and restorative justice. She has served on the national board of the American Civil Liberties Union and is a founding member of two social justice nonprofits, the East Palo Alto Community Law Project and the Equal Justice Society. She grew up the youngest of 5 siblings in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and is a graduate at Princeton University and Stanford Law School. So please welcome Professor Margaret Russell. And next we have Haidia Weisinger, who is a junior psychology and public health major. Haidia has been involved on campus as a lead scholar, campus ambassador, Hackworth Fellow. She is presently the co-chair of the Black Student Union, community outreach director for our Multicultural Center, or MCC, and Ignatian Fellow with the Northern California Innocence Project, and a student assistant in the Religious Studies Department. So please welcome Haidia Weisinger. And now for our guests of honor, Elaine Brown. Elaine Brown is the former leader of the Black Panther Party as Minister of Information, then Chairman. She is the author of A Taste of Power and The Condemnation of Little B.A. Taste of Power, her autobiography, is scheduled for film production with Alicia Keys, slated to play Elaine. Yes, and recently her book was published by audiobook by Audible and also published in the UK by Penguin Random House and in France. She is presently the CEO of the nonprofit organization Oakland and the World Enterprises, or OAW, which is dedicated to launching and sustaining for-profit businesses for cooperative ownership by formerly incarcerated and other people facing extreme barriers to economic survival. OAW, if you may have seen in the news recently, is now building 79 100% affordable housing units in West Oakland. Yes. And a projected occupancy this summer. And the ground floor of the OAW supported businesses, including a neighborhood market, restaurant, fitness center, among other community resources. And she proudly resides in Oakland, California. So please give a warm South Bay welcome to Elaine Brown.
Testing. Great. Elaine Brown, it is such a pleasure to see you again and to have the occasion to reopen your book. And it's my book group's book. I had a lot of influence in picking this month's book. So some of these questions you may think are obvious, but there are so many people here who really want to hear more about the story of your life of activism. So what first inspired you to become involved in activism and join the Black Panther Party?
Well, nothing is one thing, right? And so what I like to tell people of late is that the story that people have missed from my book, and really I've told this 100 times, but they sort of glossed over it. And like you, I was born and raised in Philadelphia, but I was born in the hood. I don't know where you were born, but I was living in 21st in York, where you had to be pretty rough to just walk around every day. But I went to school with all white children in a special school, elementary school called Thaddeus Stevens. And so I learned at school that these people had a lot of things that I didn't have. I didn't know how you know, what I didn't have, I didn't know how poor I was until I met these people. And they had refrigerators and lights and so forth and so on. Everybody, I would say 90% of the kids were Jewish. Our school was so Jewish that we didn't even have Christmas celebrated. Hanukkah, Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, and what have you, but we didn't study Christmas at all. We didn't have Christmas at our school. So you had like 2 Chinese, 3 colored children, and then that was it. The rest, everybody else was white and mostly Jewish. And they lived a good life, and so ultimately I wanted to have their life. Ultimately, I wanted to be them. I wanted to be white, because white looked like it was a good thing to be, and I was poor, but I had to be black when I went home and white when I was in school, and I was very confused, thought I was schizophrenic. Went to girls' high, as you know, went to special schools and all this other stuff, but it wasn't enough. And I was always confused and never wanted to do anything, didn't know who I was, where I fit in, blah, blah. It wasn't an identity crisis, it was much deeper than that. But in any case, I ended up in California, and ended up as a cocktail waitress in a strip club called the Pink Pussycat. I made more money there, though, than I probably ever made in my life. Anyway, and I met a very rich man. He was a friend of Frank Sinatra's, and so I got into this whole universe of these sort of rich people out of Las Vegas, and so I was his mistress. I was 22 years old, and that's all I did. I was just wandering around Westwood being cute. I wasn't exactly white, but I wasn't black either. I didn't even actually think about it, even though Black Power was everywhere. Dr. King, Malcolm X, you would have thought I might have made notice, but I didn't. So this is like 1965, the Watts Uprising. It had nothing to do with me. And I lived in Westwood, and there was a black woman that lived in the building, which was surprising but she was the black woman that lived in the building, you know. And she said, "How you doing, sister?" And I was like, I wonder who she's talking to, because it can't be me. And she said, I think I hear you playing the piano. Is that you playing the piano? I said, probably. And she said, well, do you think you could teach piano to some children? I have a program in Watts. And I felt like, well, this was a great charitable opportunity. I don't have anything else to do. I had 4 pairs of eyelashes on. I had my hair pushed back and long, and I had beautiful clothes. And all I did was stuff like this, you know, and eat out. And, you know, it was just ridiculous. Totally disconnected from everything. I was above and beyond and outside of. And so we went down to Watts, and then we got to Jordan Downs projects, and it looked like a housing project I had lived in. And once we moved out of 21st in York, we moved up to go to live in the James Weldon Johnson home, my mother and I. So the housing project was a step up for us because we were so bad where we lived. But mice and rats couldn't get into because you had concrete floors. So anyway, Jordan Downs looked like James Weldon Johnson home. So I was starting to get nervous because this was starting to remind me of something that I must have forgotten. And so we got into this little room that she had rented, this little apartment, and these little girls in there, little skinny black girls, and with their little dresses on, looking pathetic. I had my little Thompson piano primers, and I was sitting there, and they're looking at me like I have some salvation for them. And she's like, "Oh, girls, this is Miss Brown, and she's gonna give you piano lessons." And they all like, "Hello, Miss Brown, hello, Miss Brown." I'm looking at them like, this is not gonna help you. These piano lessons are not going to change anything. You living in Watts. The police don't even come to the Jordan Downs. A voice started saying to me that I understood. I said, I know what you needed. It ain't piano lessons. You need another life, and I know what you need because I know you, and I know you because I am you, and I forgot. And it was that moment when Christians joined the church. Chinese call it fan sheng. And so I called it a moment of enlightenment. And you can never unknow a moment like that. So there I was, these little girls. And now what am I going to do? I can't live with this rich white man, 55 years old, and I'm 22 years old. So I just left him. And I had to get a job. That part was difficult. But and I just became black. You know, it's like everything black. I was going to do everything black. I curled up my hair more than it was. You know, it was curly, but I didn't pull it back or slick it back. I curled it up, and my mother was like, your hair's not like, I don't know, sister, you don't know anything about me. I know me. And I got involved in the Black Congress and all this other stuff. And then there was this rumor about these people named the Black Panthers. And this guy comes there, and he says, this Huey Newton guy in Oakland, he's been in a confrontation with the police, and a cop has been killed, and Huey Newton is this. And all the black people sitting around there were like, well, what are we supposed to do? And we had this poetry reading, like in a room like this. And then everybody had heard about the Black Panther Party. We heard, of course, about SNCC, Stokely Carmichael, Rap Brown, Black Power, talking about, we're going to do something different now. We don't know what Black Power meant, any more than we know what Black Lives Matter means. But here comes this guy through the doorway. He's been rumored to be the toughest guy in Los Angeles, black guy. He's the head of the SLOS. There's 5,000 members of the street gang that's bigger than their street organization, as big as the Peastone Nation in Chicago, led by Jeff Fort. And he comes in, he's got like 15, 20 guys with him. They're all strapped, looking crazy. Everybody starts sitting up, everybody's scared. And this guy says, "My name is Bunchy Carter. I'm here to let you know that the Black Panther Party is here because we're here to let the pig know," that's the police, "that we're not going to allow any more, you're not going to kill our men and beat up our women, and we're not going to allow it anymore. We'll destroy the gravitational pull between the earth and the moon." I say, good God Almighty. And then somebody said, "Well, Bunchy, you know poems," and he unfurled a picture of this Huey Newton in his chair with his gun and his spear, and it's like, everybody was like terrified. And I was sitting there looking at this beautiful man who was like no one I had ever known, no black man I had ever seen. Proud, standing up, looking good, smart, streetwise, and scholarly at the same time. And he had a poem, and so I'm going to say that very quickly, a piece of it, because I don't remember the whole thing. And it's called Black Mother. Black Mother, he said, "Black Mother's how you talk. Black Mother had a swagger. Black Mother, I must confess that I still breathe, though you are not yet free. What could justify my crying start? Forgive my coward's heart, but blame me not to sheepish me, for I've been sleeping in a deep, deep sleep, and I be hazed and dazed, and vipers fester in my hair, Black Mother. I curse your drudging years, the rapes, heartache, sweat, and tears, but I swear, on siege night, dark and gloom, a rose I'll wear to honor you, and when I fall, a rose in hand, you'll be free, and I, a man for a slave of natural death who dies, can't balance out the two dead flies. I'd rather be without the shame, a bullet lodged within my brain, Black Mother." And it wasn't long after that I joined the Black Panther Party.
Wow. Wow.
You can see why. But those little girls were the moment of enlightenment.
Very inspiring for sure. And I think really that moment of enlightenment and like your journey, and then seeing that, you went in to teach that piano, saw that as a window of opportunity, and how that really just turned into just a life-changing moment. Right. So I really want to focus on like your time in the Black Panther Party and really as a leader in the Black Panther Party. So how did you navigate the challenges and complexities of activism during that time?
Well, in the Black Panther Party, we said there are no part-time Panthers, no part-time revolutionaries. So we didn't have like a job or a family or anything. We quoted people like the Russian anarchist Bakunin, who said the revolutionary is a doomed man. We studied, of course, we were communists, and we studied Marx and Lenin, not with a capital C. We studied Marx and Lenin. We also studied Nkrumah, and we also studied Nyerere and Che Guevara and Mao Zedong and every other thought person and Frantz Fanon that we could find that could give us some kind of an idea about what was it that we wanted. And we had a 10-point platform and program. So the first point was we want freedom. We want freedom. Power to determine the destiny of our black communities. That meant we understood that we were an oppressed people. And so in order for us to not be an oppressed people, what did we have to do? And we this organization was formed as a vanguard organization, coming out of the Leninist theory of organizing the people to make the people and the conditions ready for revolutionary change, from capitalism to some form of socialism, eventually maybe communism with a small c. Throughout the world. But our goal was to organize the people and instigate the conditions and create the conditions for revolution. Now, there was just no time to do anything else. So you didn't have any problem. What was my problem? I had surrendered my life to this whole thing. The commitment was real. We all thought we were going to die. Here I am, 81 years old. Who the hell thought this was going to happen? Not me. But we thought we were going to die, so there was nothing else to do but to live every day for the revolution, for the struggle. And we did a lot of things, and so we were busy all the time. The Black Panther Party had a 10-point platform and program, and our goal was to organize the people. And how did we do that? Well, we said we had several points. So The seventh point was that we want an end to police brutality. We put guns in the street. We said, okay, you want to beat up George Floyd? We're not going. You're going to have to deal with us and our shotguns. And people thought we were like, oh, they're violent. Dr. King is not violent. Anybody that would have known anything about the Southern movement would have known that everybody in the South was strapped. I mean, you were like stupid. I mean, it's like you actually think that Dr. King had no security? I mean, really? Seriously? So it's nonviolent action, not nonviolent, like just let somebody come in and roll over you and kill you. And so the Black Panther Party, we took our name from SNCC in the South, but now things were different. And our difference between us and all the other movements, because we were part of the freedom movement from 1600s forward, our movement was to say that there had to be revolutionary change. And how do we effect that? Well, we have to organize our people. We did that through the survival programs everybody likes to talk about. Yeah, we had the free breakfast program, free clinics. We did all that, very hard. Hard work every day, 18, 19 hours a day. Everybody had to learn weapons training. It was a paramilitary structure. So we had a lot to do every day in terms of navigating. You didn't have to really think about much. You were too damn tired at the end of the day. And we were sleeping on the floors. We didn't have our own clothes anymore. It wasn't a cult, so I don't want people to think that. It wasn't that. It was that we don't have time for a lot of this stuff. Nobody got married. If you were lucky if you could figure out how to make love to somebody, but marriage and what are you going to do? Some people had children already when they came into the party, but most of us didn't. And then we talked about what else can we be doing. So we organized with other people who stood on common ground, not allies, but people who stood on common ground. We helped to formed a coalition with the American Indian Movement, AIM. We were the only black organization talking about seeing our struggle in relationship to the struggle of the Native people for justice for all of the rapes and heartaches that had happened over hundreds of years before they enslaved us, killed the whole Powhatan Confederacy in Jamestown, Pocahontas' daddy and everybody. And then we formed a coalition, helped to form the Brown Berets, the Chicano organization as we called it in Southern California. And then we helped to form a coalition with the Young Lords, Puerto Ricans out of Chicago. And then we helped to form a coalition with the Young Patriots, poor whites out of Kentucky and Mississippi that yesterday were calling us nigger, but today they were our coalition partners and talking about Free Huey and talking about Fred Hampton was the chairman. And then we formed a coalition with everything, created things like the Gray Panthers, formed a coalition with the Center for Independent Living for the rights of people who were disabled, formed a coalition with the Trust for Public Land to talk about environmental rights. Created strong relations with the people of other nations that were revolutionary organizations. Of course, Cuba, of course, the North Vietnamese, even though the war was going on at the time. And we called for not peace, but for victory for the Viet Cong, victory for the Vietnamese. We went to Hanoi and did that. I mean, I have pictures of myself with General Giap. The North Koreans, Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Chinese, of course, and every black liberation organization in Africa, Frelimo in Mozambique, and PLA in Angola, ZANU in Zimbabwe, PAC in South Africa, and so forth. And so we became an international revolutionary organization. It was not hard to navigate that. The real question was, how can we get as much work as we could get in every day? Meanwhile, the FBI declaring that we were greatest threat. We were the greatest threat to the internal security of the United States. We were fighting police every day. We were arrested in Southern California, where I started in the party. The year 1969, I went to a funeral of one of our people every single month. And but we knew that we had to struggle on. So there was nothing hard. It's what Andy Young, one of the few things I would quote Andy Young for, called an easy burden. It was an easy burden, nothing to worry about, because this was everything that you were committed to. If you believe those little girls should be free, then you need to throw down and make something happen. And I was lucky enough to find an organization that existed called the Black Panther Party.
Amazing, amazing.
Well, I feel like we're just going to stay here all night, you all. So the beginning of your book, which I love, is you assuming leadership of the Black Panther Party. And today we also talk about like the obstacles to black women in positions of power. So I'm wondering what you can share with us about your experience in the Black Panther Party as a woman, being treated like a woman, and also what are some of your observations today about
And then now.
treatment?
Well, in the Black Panther Party, there's this notion that the Black Panther men were some kind of like exceptionally brutal chauvinists, like we were some kind of stupid ass women who just joined some group to be maligned and abused by men. These men were my heroes. I looked up to them. I wrote songs about them for which I was heavily criticized by fake feminists. What are you going to do? Say, well, George Jackson, are you serious? I mean, I knew people like George Jackson and Huey P. Newton and, you know, and Fred Hampton. Are you kidding? You going to denigrate these men and try to pretend that the women were oppressed in the Black Panther? We were not oppressed. We knew who our oppressor was. We were strapped also, so that changed the dynamic. We were strapped as any man, so we had a great equalizer called, you know, Snub Nose 38 was the one I usually carried. But certainly there were men who where did we get these men from? Revolutionary Heaven? But where did we get the women from? Revolutionary Heaven? They had their own problems. We came from a culture, a reactionary, racist culture. We still were dealing with color questions inside the Black Panther Party. So let's not act like the men of the Black Panther Party were thugs and ignorant men that beat us up, because that's the image that J. Edgar Hoover promoted, and we have bought that image. Even today, we don't like, unless you got doctor something or whatever it is, we want to talk about black men. Black men are not my enemy, they're my brothers. I'm not going to allow anyone to make that distinction. You want to have some fake feminist, third wave, second wave, first wave feminist, Gloria Steinem don't do nothing with me. She was a CIA operative at one point. Let's look it up, go on, Google it if you feel like it. She admits it. It's not something I'm making up from the old Black Panther days. So, I mean, what are we talking about when we talk about feminism? You know, I remember when the hardcore feminists used to say, men must change or die. That's not me. Black men are in the same position I'm in as oppressed people. Did they then imagine themselves as being better because they were males? Of course they did. But there were a lot of women that came to the party who thought the same thing. Women thought that we were supposed to cook for men. I mean, I'm the last person that has to cook anything. I can't cook and I don't even like to cook. And I'm not going to be cooking for anybody. You know, I saw Fani Willis today, the DA of Fulton County, and she was just put to the, it was horrible what they did, but she handled herself. And they were like telling, if you don't know who Fani Willis is, y'all need to just read the news for God's sake. So she's the one who brought, charged against 18 different people connected to Trump on a RICO charge, okay? So they asked her about this man that she was seeing, and wasn't she benefiting because he was taking her out? She said, the only man that ever took care of me was my daddy. Everybody else, I'm on my own. I take care of myself. I pay my bills. I don't need a man to do that for me. So I just loved her. She was like, that's the way it is. And they said something to her, and she said, well, I'm not going to answer that question because you want me to emasculate a black man. That's what people want me to do. I'm not going to allow you to do that. You don't get to mess with my brother. He may not love me as much as he should, but I'm still going to love him, okay? And the true revolutionary guided by great feelings of love. Inside the party, yes, I had problems as a woman in leadership, but I had Huey P. Newton who put me in leadership. Now, I don't think you want to really challenge Huey, and if you do, that's because you didn't know where this is going to take you. But remember, Huey was shot 5 times by the police before the cop was killed, and the cop was killed. And so it's like the old saw where you say, news is not the dog bites man, but the news is man bites dog, right? So this was the black man didn't get killed by the police, but this is the black man that's charged with killing a white cop. So Huey Newton was a dynamic figure. When he got out of prison after 3 years, people were so worshipful, and people putting flowers. I mean, I can't tell you the level of his admiration by black people around the country and around the world. There was no one in the Black Panther Party, including Bobby Seale, that would ever challenge Huey P. Newton. So I was put in a position as chairman of the Black Panther Party by Huey. So if nothing else, and I had, soldiers, and all of them were men, just so you know. Without them, I would have never been able to do the things I did. I could go walk into a room, and all I had to do was come in with about 4 or 5 of my soldiers that were more like the elite squad, and you'd be surprised how people hear me after a while. They heard they would just hear me, you know. So yes, there was chauvinism inside the party, but there was also a commitment to something bigger. And so whatever chauvinist tendencies a lot of the men had were diminished or put down by their commitment to the greater thing. Outside the party, I mean, the SNCC, did you ever hear of anybody? SCLC, Dr. King's organization, how many women have you asked that question of who are in SCLC? What woman did you ever know to lead SCLC? What's the answer? Myrlie Evers for 10 minutes, right? I'm just telling you what the reality is here. Did anybody ever ask SNCC why you didn't have women in leadership? Nobody asked about SNCC. Why did they ask? The only organization that had women in leadership was the Black Panther Party. I wasn't the only one. You had Kathleen Cleaver, Erica Huggins, Audrey Smith-Jones. You had a whole bunch of sisters that were in leadership in the Black Panther Party. Everybody goes, did you know Tupac Mama, Afeni? She wasn't in leadership, but people know who these people are, Sada Shakur, all of that. Why would you think that the black, not you, but why would you think the Black Panther Party, but nobody ever asked any other black organization or really white organization, how do you treat women? I never heard anybody challenge that. You know why? Because they bought into the FBI imagery of the Black Panther Party, a group of thugs. And that's just a misdemeanor. Now today, I'm actually on my own, so I don't have my little army behind me. I wish I did. As Bob Dylan said, my empty-handed army is a going home. My empty-handed Navy is a rowing home. How does it feel to be all alone? So forth and so on. So I know what that feels like. And right now, here I am. I have figured out how to find $80 million to build a housing project of 79 units. So what does that tell you about California? How ridiculous is that? $1 million a unit for affordable housing. Now the housing is not cheap or cut. There's no cut and cut. I got 20,000 square feet of solar panels. We got triple pane windows. We got a vapor mitigation system to make sure no bad things come up from the ground. So forth and so on. We got businesses there. And all these men that I'm dealing with, the architects group, the contractor, even my co-developer, I sit in a room, 15 men, they act like I'm not there. So then I have to become the angry black woman. And I don't mind because I am angry. I'm angry and I don't have like, oh, why are you talking so loud? I'm talking loud because you didn't hear me. I sign every single month the pay app with my co-developer, one sign, the CEO of that company, McCormick Barron Salazar, and I, and that's like $4 million a month. Everybody working in the thing is people that I pay with the money I raised. So I know you're gonna listen to me because I'm the boss, see? And I don't mind being the boss. Just think of me with a cigar Panama hat. I'm gonna act that if you think you're gonna get out of line with me. So I don't worry about it because I'm not validated by a man. I'm not validated by anybody. I already know what I do and it's all right. So I don't have to have anyone I don't have to bow down, I don't have to do it, and I act a fool. That's how I got $80 million. I did. So I think the navigation thing with women is this. I have a lot of women saying, well, what are we gonna do? Men don't respect us. Well, they're gonna respect you. You got to start slapping people around them. They didn't hear you? I told you we were strapped in the Black Panther Party. You're not gonna walk up to any sister in the party talking about what you're getting ready to do. Because you won't, and I mean, plenty of my sisters today are have the same attitude, old as we might be. I ride around Oakland all the time, don't I glory by myself. I don't have a bodyguard, a driver, nothing else. But I'm tricky, you know, it's how I got to be this old. So I'm not gonna put up with anybody's little chauvinist theories about themselves, especially since I'm running this operation. And so what we have to do is take charge of stuff we do and not worry about whether some man likes it, because you're gonna find a lot of women won't like it either until we're all re-educated in some new, better world that we have created through some type of revolutionary change.
One thing I do want to touch on, like that was amazing, first and foremost, and really just like especially in today's landscape, and you know, being able to be in the room and make sure you know you earned your seat at the table, make sure people.
No. I didn't earn nothing because they didn't earn anything. That's right. In this case, it's my damn table.
Exactly.
I'm not at their table. I'm at my table. And that's what self-determination means. And it's very important that we get that. I'm not trying to be able to get a table and become the first black woman on the board of Hoobie Boo Corporation. I don't care nothing about the corporation. I have something that I'm doing. So I'm not trying to sit at your table, because your table is filled with blood, the blood of the Native people, the blood of Chicanos, the blood of a whole lot of people. I don't want to sit at your table. I don't want to drink from your cup. I want to form my own. So I don't have a seat at the table. They're sitting at my table right now.
I like that. I like that.
Just so you know.
So in terms of leadership, and I know you talked a little bit about the different coalitions that were formed, the different programs, are there any like specific moments that you look back on just in your activism career that you're really proud of, or any moments that you really like reflect on and ponder often?
There's a lot of stuff I think about. Just knowing the men that I knew and the women that I knew. These people were soldiers. They were people that were ready and did give up their lives. And that's part of it. So there's no like one thing. But I was talking to someone, and I can't remember, earlier today about, sister back there, about the Center for Independent Living. And if you don't know what that is, it's in Berkeley. It still is there. It was begun by a guy named Ed Roberts, who was quadriplegic. And Ed was a crazy, crazy ass person. And he did, as I told you, he did this, he would do stuff like, before they got any money, they would try to get money, they would write grants, whatever it was. But their goal was to create the conditions for disabled people to be free by being conditions of independence. How you gonna get on the bus? How you go grocery shopping? How you live anywhere? You can't do anything if you're in a wheelchair. You still can. Don't be blind and think you're gonna take the BART or some train or something. That's not gonna happen for you. You just messed up. Well, we didn't know about any of that until a brother in our party, we had brought everybody to Oakland for the election of Bobby Seale, well, for the electoral campaign of Bobby Seale and Elaine Brown in 1973. And so around that time, this guy, Brad Lomax, came from, I've forgotten where, we can say Maryland or somewhere. And he had MS, but he was still able to walk, and after a while he was in a wheelchair. And he said, look, I want to be in the party, I'm black, and I'm a soldier, but I can't even get into the building. We were like, damn, what kind of ignorant ass people are we? We didn't create anything for somebody to get into the building. So we created these tacky little ramps and things, and tried to create some spaces and what have you. And then Brad learned about the Center for Independent Living and Ed Roberts. And Ed Roberts, as I say, was this white guy who was militant and crazy. So I tell you, you got to get a little crazy if you want something to happen. So Ed was like, well, like I gave the example today, they would have bill collectors. They would have to come and say, you haven't paid your light bill or whatever it was. And they said, well, you have to see our executive director, Ed Roberts. And Ed was sitting back there. He knew how he looked. He was a quadriplegic. All he could do is move his head. And his head was like this. And he would spit be dribbling out of his mouth and everything. Ed will strap a goddamn pen to his head. Now, he knew this was ridiculous, right? And he said, well, give me a check. And he started trying to write a check, which, he couldn't put enough pressure on it. It was just messed up. His saliva coming out of his mouth. People be like, oh, don't pay the bill. Don't worry about it. He's just like, just go away. We don't want to look at you anymore. He knew that. You don't want to see me. I'm too ugly for you. You don't want me in your society. Now you want me to write a check. Okay, here's my check. And then we would do shit like this. And then he would pair up with all these Vietnam vets that had upper body strength. They were paraplegic. People like Ron Kovic, born on the 4th of July, were there with us in the Bay Area. Good God Almighty, these guys were so strong. They knocked somebody out from the chair. Bam! They had all gotten very strong. And they would do stuff like go up the down escalator, up with a wheelchair with just their arms, right? And then they would go for money. I'm getting to a point here. They go for money. And they'd go like to the California legislature. And the chamber is just narrow. It's like right here, you probably have a little trouble getting your wheelchair in the third thing. You know what I'm saying? So they would just ride. They would be real strong ones would ride through and just knock stuff down all the way. People were like, just please give them some money. Do they have to keep coming? You know, so I'd be like, and that was their tactic, though. That was their tactic. And so there was this moment when they all around the country decided they were going to shut down as much as they could of the federal government, because all they asked for in this first wave was access to federal buildings, wheelchair access. There's not even toilets. This is not even, you know, drinking fountains. This is just to get in the door. I can't even go get my little Social Security check because I can't even get in the building. And the government, Casper Weinberger, who was some reactionary, who was it? Who was 73? That'd be what, Nixon or somebody? You know, just a total government ignored them. They said, okay, we're going to lock down all these federal buildings. And in San Francisco, we did that. And Brad was the leader. He was our liaison. And he had, and Chucky Boy, which was his attendant, I just cry if I think about this. And they stayed 28 days on the floors, would not move. Got the strong guys outside in wheelchairs, blocking stuff, chained to the place. And we brought food, 3 meals a day over to them. And we were like the only black people, like, oh, the disabled movement is white people. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you insane or what? It's like the environmental movement in the beginning. People are like, oh, that's for like white people. It's about to spot it out. Really? So you don't notice the asthma in West Oakland and you want to support nuclear power plants in the earthquake country because you think you're going to get a job? This is the kind of dumb analysis we can have. So Brad had opened our eyes and we were in it and we supported it. We were bringing food over there. We got Moscone to put in portable showers in the hallways of the federal building. And we stayed 28 days, longer than anybody across the country because of the black, they'll always say it's a Black Panther's food. And if you go to the Center for Independent Living today, they'll show you that there was a Black Panther Party that gave them that extra thrust. And it was Brad sitting there in his wheelchair for 28 days. Good God Almighty, how hard was that? How you gonna go to the bathroom in the federal building? You tell me. And so Casper Weinberger capitulated and they walked out victorious. And so I could say that today, I say, the Black family, you see these signs, handicapped, you see people have accommodations for everything from migraine headaches to a blindness to having a dog with you, that we had a lot to do with that first wave that opened up those doors of those federal buildings that led to the active thing, and Ed Roberts was a big part of that, and led ultimately 10 or 12 years later to the Americans with Disabilities Act. So that's one thing I can say I'm proud of, that people don't know. Yeah.
So I know you won't sugarcoat this. What do we need to be doing today? And I also mean specifically young people, people who just want to know more about what you think the pressing issues are today and what we should be doing.
Well, I mean, if I had to answer, we would be free, okay? We would not be sitting around here talking about the big problem. So I'm using black people as a measure because that's what I talk about mostly. Let's just take a look at the situation here right now. And a lot of black people, you know, especially get around certain situations that we kind of think, well, that's not me anymore. That doesn't apply to me anymore. But I think the Dr. Gay, is that her name, the former president of Harvard? How long did she last? 6 months? Did she last 6 months? She forgot she was black. She thought she was an intellectual and had overcome blackness. Maybe you don't know what I'm talking about. You don't know what I'm talking about? Because I see people looking at me like they don't understand. She got fired, right? 6 months into the game. Now, of course, she could have just said something. She started doing some intellectual debate about whether somebody would say that genocide of Jews was a good thing, or something that a right-wing broad from New York asked all of them, right?
Right.
Wasn't that the question, something like that? Do you think it's wrong to say that? Or something that she said like that. Now, who in their right mind could endorse genocide of anybody? All she had to do was say, yes, it's wrong, and moved on. But she had to intellectualize because she had forgot she was really black. She'd been living in her Harvard universe with her white husband for so long that she forgot. Yes, I said that part. She actually thought she wasn't black anymore. Not black, that she wasn't black, because she had a little short, natural and all that, but that she wasn't subject to the same rules. Now, if you excuse me, back in the day, you know, we used to say, what do you call a black PhD? A Dr. Nigger, okay? And that's what you call them today, too. People think they've escaped. They're not thugs like the thugs and like the people that ran over in Kansas City the other day. They're not like that. These are the people that voted for the Three Strikes crime bill, this Congressional Black Caucus, all of them voted for it. YUCM, all these elected Negroes voted for it because they don't think they're black anymore. Somehow they think they have escaped because they're not connected. People like Jay-Z talking about Beyonce should have been given the same accolades as Taylor Swift. Now, how are you going to beg the Grammys? I mean, it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. Was that his real hair? What was that? Walking up there, and she walking around with this super blonde hair. You still black, brother. You still black. You ain't doing nothing for our people, but you're black. So I look at the measure of black people. We got like 12 billionaires, low-level billionaires. Rihanna just creeped in. They said, oh, Rihanna's a billionaire, as if you're proud of that. What are you proud of? She's selling Fenty makeup? Well, who owns Fenty? You think Rihanna does? No, that's LVMH, Bernard Arnault, the richest man in the world. That's who owns Fenty, because he also owns Sephora, which is what distributes most of Fenty. Now, I don't mind you want to wear that lipstick and make yourself feel like you bought something black. Good for you. But Rihanna ain't doing nothing for us. Any more than Jay-Z. I ain't gonna talk about Michael Jordan or Michael B. Jordan for that matter. See, we got to get real. Where are we? So you want to be a teenager? What are you doing on Facebook with your cousin's birthday party? I tell people, if you go on my Facebook page and put something about your cousin, I'm striking you from whatever I can strike you from. Are you kidding me? What are we Instagramming about? We spending all this time for Mark Zuckerberg. And Mark Zuckerberg said, I'm really sorry all your children committed suicide. And we're going to try to work on that. Okay. They need to get up there and say something like that. And I like the TikTok guy better, though, because they really drilled him. And he said, look, I'm from Singapore. I don't know anything about China or the Chinese Communist Party. And whatever the other people, Elon Musk we can't even speak about, okay? It's just, that's too, I don't even know what planet we're on with Elon Musk. Although I do make note that he's just another South African racist as far as I'm concerned. But we want a Tesla, we want this. What should we be thinking about? So you ask me, what should we be doing? We should stop all of this social media grind unless you're going to do something with it. I'm planning on doing something with Black Lives Matter shortly. That'll be, so use their social media, because what else do they do? But anyway, you know, what are the conditions in America? Black people have the highest poverty rate in America. You're talking about 2024. In 2023, HUD did a study, or came out with their study about what they call it, point of time study on, on homelessness. We represent 13% of the population and 50% of the homeless. What in the hell is that about? And 50% of the homeless were children, 37% of the homeless, period. We have the highest incarceration. California, 5% black, 40% people in prison. We don't have any home ownership. We have lowest educational attainment levels. So the question becomes, why? Now, this is when you get into being, isn't her name Gay, Dr. Gay, wasn't that her last name? That's her last name. This is when you get into black people thinking, well, it must be something wrong with those people. I made my way. I worked hard. America's a place where you too can become the president of Harvard or Oprah. I can't even talk about Oprah. It's beyond anything I can think about right now. My point is this: what do you want to do about this stuff? You just going to sit around here and do Instagram and do your cousin's birthday party? Or go to church, Gloria, one day and never do anything else the rest of the days? And then that's for the 9/11 service. And if you're Catholic, you can go to like 7 in the morning and knock that out right away. You ain't going to say nothing about the Gaza? You ain't going to say nothing about nothing? You're just gonna sit around, you asking me what they can do. There's a million things you could be doing. I know this is a nice little safe campus in the richest county in the state of California, the richest state in the world, in the country, and the 5th largest economy in the world, but good God Almighty, when are you gonna make up your mind to do something? Right? I don't know what to tell people to do. We had people in the Black Panther Party with 17. Huey P. Newton was 24 years old when he founded the Black Panther Party. I think that's still young, right? Is that still young? So I think that we have to shift our own sense of what's happening, but we get comfortable. And I'm gonna say this lastly. I saw a film many, many years ago. There was a later film done with LL Cool J. It was kind of goofy. But the original film was called, that was put out that I saw that I'm referring to, was called Rollerball. And it was James Caan was the star of Rollerball. I see some people actually remember Rollerball, saw it. And Rollerball was about a game called Rollerball that became an international, or a global phenomenon. And so you had like individual areas had their own rollerball team, but they weren't by country, and they weren't by state. Well, they might by city maybe, but they weren't by country. The countries had disappeared. Nobody was really poor, and there was no more war. And the only thing everybody loved was rollerball. It was like a big roller rink, and then it had a thing like a basketball thing, but they wore gloves that you could kill somebody with. They had spikes and things in them, and the goal was to get this thing into the thing and roll around the roller rink. It was just mad. Every kind of violent thing you can think of was going on in rollerball, because people didn't have any other outlet for their anger and their rage, but rollerball was like it. And so the biggest rollerball, one of the biggest rollerball players in the world was James Caan, and he played for the Houston team, not to be confused with Texas or a real, because there was no more government. It was just, well, we didn't know that right away. And so he had 11 kills, and they were like, so you could kill people, and so the more kills you had, the more popular you were. And then a friend of his on his team got killed, and he said, well, I'm not playing rollerball no more. So this guy calls him into his office and says, well, you just can't quit rollerball. Are you insane? We trained you, raised you up to play rollerball. How do you think you got everything you got? That's all you can do is play rollerball. But we didn't want him to quit out openly, because he would then turn people around to start thinking about quitting. So ultimately he finds out he has this girlfriend. Turns out she was also created for him. So he'd have this beautiful woman, he had this beautiful house, everything. And he went to the library. Now, I know this is sounding weird, but the library didn't have no real books in it anymore. It just had little condensed, kind of everything. And so he couldn't find any information. He said, well, the girlfriend said, you're going to have to come back to rollerball. Don't be stupid. How do you think I got here? How do you think we all got here? We're all living well. What's wrong with you? And he said, well, how did this happen? I can't find any information. She said, don't you remember reading or hearing about it? 50 years ago, the whole globe had an opportunity to vote for comfort over freedom, and we chose comfort. And that's what's happening today. Everybody choosing comfort. I don't want to lose my scholarship. I don't want to lose my job. Well, you're going to have one life, and you're going to die anyway. Isn't that the killer? I'm here to tell you, as Willie Brown said, I'm one of these people where the line is getting shorter, So what else can you do with your life? You don't have to kill or die, but you could be doing something that puts hours and time every day into something that is meaningful. I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you that you can look at the array of issues that are out here. There's plenty of housing issues. There's plenty of food issues. There's plenty of poverty, and that is the biggest problem, the wealth disparity. And in a city like this, where you only have any black people anyway, but in a city like this, where you have tremendous wealth gaps, this is the wealth gap. This is Silicon Valley. You in the middle of wealth. Get some of these people to give some of this money. They've given up on BIPOC. They used to have DEI for about 10 minutes. Then when they were locked down and the coronavirus, they started talking about, we need DEI. You know what I thought it was? I studied Latin. You know, I was a Latin person. I thought it was God. I said, what is that? Is that plural for God? Is there a plural God? What is that? They said DEI, you idiot. I'm like, Deus is God, right? So it's like, what is it? And so it turns out it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. You want me to be included in your world. How insulting is that concept? Okay, because that's what it means. I'm going to let you in drips and drabs. So here you are in the home of everything. If you don't do nothing else, you could be pushing some of these people to put some of this money into some programs that will help some other people. You in this one school alone could say, focus on like Cesar Chavez did with the United Farm Workers. He didn't go after every wine company, but he was certainly from the grape fields of California. He could have gone after all of them because they were all racist and all reactionary, but he went after Gallo. And I mean, they killed people in the United Farm Work. The Teamsters got with them. It was rough. You know, I just saw and had a beautiful time with Dolores Huerta. She's another bad sister. She's still old. She's old like me, talking crazy as I am. But anyway, the end of this point is this. You're sitting in the heart of the richest county in the state of California, the richest state in the country, the richest country in the world. You ought to be able to pull some money out of Silicon Valley, and you can come to West Oakland with it if you want to, because I need some money for my businesses. I'm serious. But you could be doing some institutional stuff that says, okay, if you don't have to protest, just a protest. Just say, look here, Mark, Meta Mark, you know. Better than the name Mark Zuckerberg, you know. And remember, he didn't even finish college. Am I making this stuff up? All he wanted to do was get a girl with a little ugly self. So he creates a link. Remember, he creates a link for people to get, because he knew he could never get a girl looking like he looked, right? And he stole that from his partner. He didn't come, he wasn't a coder. Mark Zuckerberg didn't code nothing for no, for Facebook or anything else. He did that. He was looking for a girl in Harvard. And he knew he couldn't get a date if his life depended, so he had to have some weird operation, and he did put it together, and then all of us find ourselves in the same dumbass way. I don't have a life, so I'm gonna have a 15 minutes of fame by creating my own little Facebook page. And that's what we wanna do. As Mark Zuckerberg started giving up some money, he was supposed to have like a little program for black tech and all that. They ain't trying to do that. The money is here, and this is one thing you could do like tonight, well, tomorrow morning. Something. So that's what I suggest. And young people can do that more than older people can, because you're right here. You're young. And you don't think you're going to die, so you might as well go ahead. You know, young people don't think they're going to die. Believe me, that's why we were in the party. We just went ahead. We thought we were going to die, but we really didn't think about, like, actually dying. You know what I mean? So when you're young, you're like, yeah, let's go. So that's what young people can do today.
And they're more charming than we are.
What?
I said they're more charming than I am.
Well, I don't know about that. I met some very dull-ass young people now.
Well, but we're not.
And some very tough old people.
Wonderful person.
I'm an old person that's pretty tough. I like the way I roll.
Heidi is going to ask the last
One last question.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
So I know you talked a little bit about like that comfort piece and people kind of feeling comfortable in their lives and not doing anything, and then also that social media piece as well. And a lot of times we can see people post on social media, and one, either they ignore the problems going on in the world, or they post on social media but don't actively engage in their communities to change the problems that they are seeing. So how would you say would be the best way to maintain like hope and optimism when faced with systemic challenges that exist in our society? And how can we be sure we actively engage in our community, so it's not just we're posting just to be performative, but really posting and wanting action to happen?
Well, action is supreme. As Che Guevara said, words are beautiful, actions are supreme. But you know, Dr. King said the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice, right? So I have nothing but hope. What else is the point of living if you don't have any hope? Why don't you just sit down and say, okay, I'll just accept things, or you can accept things as they are and not worry your pretty little head about them. But for me, I do. I went to Ghana for my 80th birthday last year, and I mean, I liked it. I wanted to go there because that was where the majority of slaves came out of that port. And I got there, but the poverty was so great. They owe $45 billion to the IMF or the World Bank, whichever it is. They're in debt, blah, blah, blah. I couldn't be comfortable sitting there like I was. I mean, we had a beautiful hotel, they had security, you know, and all that. So I lived another life there for the days I was there. But the average person living like, I don't know what, like I went to like an authentic Ghanaian cuisine restaurant, and they had like cow's foot stew with okra. I said, oh no, this ain't gonna happen. I'm not good for cow's foot stew with okra. That's not gonna happen. So my point is, I could not be conscious. I could not know those little girls exist and do nothing. So once you get the drill and you feel it, you'll do something. I can't tell people what to do with their lives, but I can say this, that the going on the social media and spending all this time on social media is a diversion, and it gives everybody a little opportunity to feel like they got something to say. Ain't nobody looking at it. Oh, I have 1 million TikTok listeners. Okay, that's gonna go away tomorrow. You know, I couldn't even tell you one song that Taylor Swift has sung, and that's the truth. So, okay, but she's more popular, whatever. But the reality is that the world is poor, people are poor, and the disparity is here, and this is the home of it. So I don't know how to tell anybody to become an activist, but I believe in action. You know, I don't know what activism means, like, oh, well, I went to a protest one day, and blah, blah, blah. I think that what has happened now is that we have gotten overtaken by social media because it's so attractive for some people. I don't really get it myself. I mean, I just don't get why. I mean, I guess it's because you really feel little, and that this gives you an opportunity to make yourself feel better about yourself. But I think a lot of people who are on social media, like they said, people were depressed and they get all kinds of weird stuff happens. But in the end of the day, if you want to do something, then you're going to have to come away from whatever and think to yourself, what could I be doing to make this place a better place? Can I leave my footprint on the sands of time? You know, that this world can become something different. It doesn't matter if you become a big-time person or a small-time person, but be up and doing. I don't know what else to say to that. I just think that everyone has a role to play. And if all of us actually played a role toward bringing about a society that we want to see, nobody really votes to say, I don't care if people are hungry. I think most people really want to see an end to hunger, don't you? I think people want to see people have decent housing. I think everybody wants to say, end war, end war. I think everybody is for health care for everyone. I really don't think anybody would say, well, I don't care if those people don't get it, because one day when they realize how hard it is, you know, like, just a side vignette, when I lived in France for 7 years, and, France is, please, it's racist, whatever you want to say, but I lived there for 7 years in relative comfort, which is a long story. But the point is, everybody in France has medical care, period. I mean, it's like, nobody's thinking, well, do I have to pay this for my insurance? No, you have it. It's like you have 5 weeks vacation. If you have a job, you're going to get 5 weeks vacation in France. I don't care if you're a maid in somebody's house. I don't care if you're a doctor, you get 5 weeks. And the French have the nerve enough to be like, wait, I took my 2 for the summer, my 2 for the winter, and all I have left is 1 for spring. And they're actually serious about this too. They don't play, they strike for everything. But they have health care. So I have a friend there, Camille. She's a black woman from the United States. She married a black man from the United States in France. She was a model, he was a clothing designer. They met, they fell in love, they got married in Paris. They had a child. She wasn't even a citizen. She didn't even have a green card. He had a work permit to work for this fashion house, And all of her prenatal treatment was free. Hospital stay, free. But here's the killer. 1 year, free diapers, a bed, a baby coach, food, everything you need. So they don't have an infant mortality rate. Hello, is anybody paying attention? Here she is, a non-citizen, doesn't even have a green card, and she's getting free postnatal free care for her child and for herself. Now, what is wrong with the United States that we don't do this? Now, I'm not even going to argue about the money to Ukraine and Israel and whatever other wars and stuff we're involved in. Let's just take the whole defense budget. What? You done paid Boeing in advance for the next, they're the biggest welfare recipient of all. Does anybody validate that Boeing is a big welfare recipient? And got a door that's falling off. And we want to pay that, the government pays them to build these things. We need money. Or we need to say, doctors will be paid. How am I going to get cancer and can't afford to live when there's all these possible ways that you can live with cancer or cancer overcome? You're not going to be in France and not have cancer treatment, don't have dental care, can't see, can't afford high glass. Nobody in the whole of France is living like that. Now, all the other civilized countries of the world live like they have what you call socialized medicine. I mean, they have highest levels of this. They don't have infant mortality rate. We have a high infant mortality rate. We have a high maternal mortality rate because nobody gets prenatal care. People walking around. And we worried about abortion. And if you have a child, you're still not going to get taken care of. And your child's not going to get taken care of. We want you to have a child. We don't want you to have an abortion. But ain't nobody going to take care of you or your child. I mean, this is a craziness, right? We have to work on medical stuff. That's a big field. If you didn't do nothing else, you'd work the whole time, open up a clinic. We did it, and I'll say this, you know how we open up clinics? We just found a vacant spot. We said, that looks like we need to be there. And what's the slumlord going to say? You going to come down there and put the Black Panther Party? I don't think so. You've been leaving that place vacant. It's a vacant lot. We clean it up. Get the electricity from, around the corner with the long orange cord. Then when, stealing electricity from somebody, we'd get, how we got doctors? We go to some place like, well, in LA, we went to UCLA. It's a teaching hospital. So we say, intern A, can you give me 3 hours every Monday? Yes. They'd be happy to come down the hood and do a little clinic. And I get 2 hours from this one, and a nurse, and a this, and I have an 8-hour clinic with fully staffed, right, for free, no less. And we would do a little bit of thieving for supplies, I must admit. But we had beautiful clinics, we cleaned it up, and people could come in and get basic. A clinic is only a place where you're going to get a general referral. And we would drive people to the hospital if they needed to go. But it was free. We didn't have a sliding scale. Just come in and it's free. We're not checking credit, just like I'm not at my building. We ain't nobody getting no background check on credit or incarceration, just so you know. Because you ain't got no credit if you're only making $1,000 a month. You don't have credit, so we're not going to worry about credit. So we had the clinics. This is something that can be done everywhere. We did it with zero, less than. And to make an example that you have a human right to health care. If I know some treatment that you can get, and the only reason you can't get it is because you don't have the money to pay for some pill that's $1,000 or something. And we do have pills like that, don't we? Yeah. Pills, $1,000. What the hell? Are you insane? Why would I do that? And I'm on Medicare, right? And I have a Kaiser plan. And so for me, I feel really good when I see that, there's some pill that I have to take because I have COPD. It's the only thing I have wrong, really. Smoking too much, smoking. Hey, what can I say? And, but I mean, I'm paying like $10 for some shit that's like $400, But I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm one of the lucky ones. If I had to pay the retail price, if I didn't have a program, but I pay Kaiser too. And they got my Medicare. They take that money off. So we have to figure out, if we can't fix the system, we can at least do something to provide some immediate care. And those are kinds of things I think people can do without breaking their sweat. And lastly, a school like this, as I tell everybody, when I was at UC Santa Cruz, I use these big schools, these fabulous schools. Santa Cruz sits in the middle of near Watsonville. Now what goes on in Watsonville? A bunch of poor-ass Mexicans picking strawberries that are now sold at Whole Foods as organic. They're organic strawberries, but the Mexicans didn't get no benefit from that. okay? So I said, do you have a swimming pool here? Yes, we do. Do you have some classrooms here during the summer? You got all this grass. I could see the Pacific Ocean from the Santa Cruz campus. You ain't learning nothing there but like getting a PhD and rolling joints, you know what I'm saying? You know, Santa Cruz got bizarre stuff going on. Santa Cruz is weird, though. Come on now. But, you know, they get people with nose rings and blue hair and everything. And they walking around, and I said, well, why don't you get them little Mexican children? Then when the strawberry picking time is over and they ain't got nowhere to go, bring them to this beautiful campus. Give them some food out the beautiful dormitories that you throw away like it ain't nothing. Let them learn some swimming. Have a little summer camp for the little children that you buy your little organic strawberries from and think that you are doing a good thing because you're a vegan. Like that's some credit you should be given because you're buying vegan food from some poor-ass Mexicans that are killing themselves in Central California and Watsonville. So the same thing can happen here. There are resources here that can be transferred. Or maybe some children can come up here and enjoy some of the resources here in this beautiful Santa Clara University. And you can put together a little teaching program, a little program for the children that, as I discussed with this young lady here, whose name I've forgotten, but the lead. She's the lead, right?
Lead scholars.
Well, it's a lead. She's the lead of the lead, right? She's like, come on, let me have a little bit of play on work. She's a lead, and she's trying to bring in students and but you can also start with some elementary school students. When my daughter was at Spelman, and I had a lot to do with Spelman at the time, Spelman College, Spelman sits in the middle of the hood. You had university homes across the street at the time. And those sisters at Spelman thought, oh, we are sisters, but not Shaniqua that lives over across the street. She not my sister. She having babies out of wedlock with Dante and them. She smoking weed. We don't like her. That's how that went. So I tried to bring some of these young sisters that were teen mothers over to Spelman. Oh, no. They didn't want to do that. I said, give them some relief. Let them come to Spelman. You take care of their children. Maybe they can get some courses, you know, this kind of thing. No, the Spelman people didn't want to do that. But the point was, I did bring some people on my own. They never imagined a black girl was at school studying to be a doctor. They had never, and they lived right across the street. They couldn't imagine a black girl wanting to be a doctor or could be a doctor or was taking pre-med courses. It was unimaginable. And it gave them, wait a minute, somebody looked just like me is studying medicine. I didn't even know there were people like this. I mean, I'm serious. So there's things like bringing some kids here, bringing them, starting them early so they can get college prep classes like I did when I was in elementary school. I took the SAT. We took the SAT. We were just like, whatever. We just going to be in the top 1% girls high. We're going to be in the top 1%. And then I went to law school and I took they said, you have to take the LSAT. I said, what's that? They said, you have to take that in order to get into law school. So they said, you got to pay $800 to take a test-taking course. I said, why do I have to study to take a test? I know how to take a test. I thought it wasn't nothing, and it wasn't. It wasn't shit. I just took the test. I was like, bang, I was finished before everybody. I said, oh, I must have missed something. You know, because their heads were still down. I was like, uh-oh, these young people, I was 40, and they were all coming out of college, and it was like, uh-oh, I must have missed something. I came in like top 1%. It's a no-brainer, but you got to get used to that kind of stuff, right? So I say that to say that's something you can also do here. So let's do each one, teach one. Let's figure out a way to make your life meaningful. If you bring one person up, and you elevate one person, and one little girl that wanted piano lessons, that you turn her goddamn life around, because you got something, and somebody helped you, that's how you got here. Unless you're a Silicon Valley, you know, owner, but barring that, somebody turned your life around. And you can do it for one, and maybe for two. And while you're here, you can make your life meaningful, and it may change your whole perspective, the way those little girls changed mine back in 1966. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Where's Jonathan? Hey, Jonathan. Where is,
Thank you.
Oh, here you are.
Yes, thank you so much, Elaine, for sharing your wisdom, your insight. Like, I don't know about anybody else, but I know I'm leaving feeling